So I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present, and to be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past but the future.
Wise words.
Really beautiful.
Yeah, I'm just gonna fit it all out. Hey, everybody. I mean, those are words we live by here, trying to contextualize the world for you and the present and going forward in the future with the history that we're in and being all together.
It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. You know what's funny is that, like, you know, all the crazy right-wing guys who like act like the Democratic Party has been infiltrated by postmodern Marxists, which is a contradiction in terms if you know anything about philosophy. Those two groups that fight with each other. Probably
the one Marxist you don't want to infiltrate.
Yeah. Well, probably the best argument that they could give is playing some Kamala Harris speeches, because like it very much is like a Spivak or like any of these like super postmodern philosophers where if you read their stuff, like there was this English journal that would pick out a section every year from like the worst prose in continental philosophy that would be stuff like what Kamala Harris just said. Probably the best example that they could pull up that these folks have been infiltrated by all of these post-Marxist and radical socialists. But folks,
as we know, Kamala Harris's father is a Marxist.
Actually, yeah, you're right. I forgot about that. And he condemned her during the campaign too, which was pretty based. Well, folks, big show tonight. Really stoked. We're going to be joined by Chris James to talk a little bit about Duncan on the right. And we're probably going to get to it real fast. We have a quick segment to do before we get there. I just want to let folks know that May is going to be a big, big month for Left Reckoning. We have a lot of incredible guests coming up. We're going to have our good friend Harvey K on the show soon, who, folks, if you don't know, is an advisor for the Marianne Williamson campaign. He's going to be joining us next week to talk about that. We're also going to be joined by Vivek Chibber, somebody whose work I respect a lot, Matt Huber, and who knows, maybe Marianne herself might make an appearance in the next few weeks on the program. We'll see if the stars align to make that happen. But you can support the show and help us grow and help us, continue to grow our reach and get more of these big name guests on the program by signing up at patreon.com/Left Reckoning. It really helps us out a lot. And we got some, I'm just saying, folks, like, strap in. Like, these next couple of months on this program are going to be next level. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we want to get to Chris in just a second, but before we jump over to him, there's two segments, two quick things that I wanted to highlight. Just one, close to home, down the road for me, Texas, just like many other states across the country, is dealing with this horrific trans panic, where the right wing is basically waging war on trans people. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in depth during the Griscom stream this Thursday. But there is a bill, Senate Bill 14, that is aiming to prohibit trans people, trans youth, from transitioning, from accessing puberty blockers and hormone therapy. And today, a lot of brave people, just like in Montana, like we covered last week, showed up and showed that the community does not agree with these anti-trans bigots. And I just wanted to give them a quick shout out. Here's 30 seconds of some of the police brutality that they were facing here at the Capitol today. we don't need to see the rest of it. It's brutality. It's abuse. Almost seems like too calm of a word. I mean, it's using the full force of the state and the police to try to threaten people coming out and showing. And as people know on this program, we talk a lot about how Texas government does not reflect the values of Texans, nor does it in most other places either. And solidarity with the protesters there. I'll have a little bit more analysis as to what's going on, what the potentials are, and how to get involved on Thursday. But this just happened a couple hours ago, so we couldn't not bring it up on the program. But before we bring Chris on, just a really quick breakdown that I want to do for folks who are patrons. Y'all know on Sunday, Matt and I talked about some of the degrowther movement, and we played a clip from Andrea Vetter, who is one of the leading degrowthers, where she, basically said that she doesn't really see a role, or, she would like to, but she doesn't think it is open to have the working class in the United States and in Europe participate in the fight for decoupling from fossil fuels. She called working class people profiteers, which I find to be really extremely nasty. And this will be a quick segment, but I just wanted to make a quick point about the class nature of climate change, because you're seeing this, I think, more and more frequently from folks who are, I think a lot of people who, even if I disagree with, I think their heart's in the right place, right? They want to see things change. But there's increasingly this really pessimistic view of working class people in the United States and North America in general, and in Europe. And, this argument that basically they are the beneficiaries and the recipients of, the global exploitation, when in fact it is the capitalists and the people at the top who are the ones deciding to exploit other countries and the rest of the world, and are also the ones who are enjoying those benefits. But one of the regular talking points of some of these degrowthers and people who basically are demonizing working class people is to sort of look at the mode of working class people, like not the rich, like working class people, and basically calling them things like, I mean, they'll be blunt about it. They'll say Americans are fat, and they live too nicely and they need to see their standard of living decline. That's something I fundamentally disagree with, and I just wanted to bring up some facts to show people why this narrative is not only, I think, morally odious, politically incompetent, but also just factually wrong. This is a study that just came out, which came out recently in Nature, on global carbon inequality over 1990. And the point here is that, like most other things, climate change is not immune to the class dynamics in society. Climate change is class war, and it is working class people all across the globe who are paying the price in climate change and the changes to our environment for the benefit of the rich. So in this study, they look at per capita emissions by different groups based on income. And if you can see here, let me just move us over real fast. You can see here, there's a very clear story. You don't have to be a statistician to sort of get the argument here that, oh, look, in North America, the bottom 50% of people are responsible for 10% of emissions, middle 40%, 21.8%, and the top 10% are responsible for 68.8%. You see, it's the most stark in America, no doubt about it. A lot of that has to do with being a very car-centric culture, the excessive consumption of the rich. But again, like if you look at this right here, you see the bottom 50% of Americans are very much in line with what the goals for consumption would be for a society that had a lower carbon footprint, right? So this narrative that like the American working class, the bottom 50% here, are the people who are sort of driving climate change is just erroneous. Next clip, just for comparison's sake, you can look at other parts of the world and you see the stark inequality, right? And the point here is not to say that there's not dramatic inequality, but there's absolutely, it is correct to say that there is a stark inequality globally in carbon emissions. But this idea that it's being driven by the working class in the United States or even in Europe is just wrong, as you can see here. And we're going to have Matt Huber on the program soon too. But I also just want to remind folks, to remember also a lot of times, these kind of like even this example here, which sort of paints a very stark picture, like doesn't even tell the full story. This is a piece from Matt Huber in the Tribune, "The Rich Drive Climate Change by Owning the Means of Production." And he says the basis of these studies, talking about other studies that sort of are looking at carbon footprints, is household income data and an inferred relationship with spending patterns associated with emissions or carbon footprints. So it's no surprise that someone like Thomas Piketty, a world famous analyst of income inequality, would use this data to link such inequality to carbon emissions. But income is not the best way to understand inequality under capitalism. A plumber could have the same income as a college professor. The plumber could also have the exact same income if they ran their own plumbing business or if they worked for a massive plumbing corporation. For Marxists, class and inequality has to do with your relationship to the means of production. More broadly, class is less about how much money you make and more about what you own and control. For the vast majority of us, we only own our own labor to sell in the market to live. For the rich, it is their ownership of property, business, and monetary wealth itself that makes them so powerful in a capitalist society. A pervasive assumption among these studies is that the rich are themselves polluters or high emitters. This assumes the emissions associated with consumption are solely their own. The studies focus on behavior of the rich, frequent flying, SUV driving, and meat eating as all emission-intensive consumer behaviors. This makes intuitive sense within the lens of carbon footprint accounting. Who else is polluting but us when we press the gas pedal in our cars and our emissions come out the tailpipe? Yet, what about the oil company that sold us the gasoline that is burned to create those emissions? Placing 100% of the responsibility for emissions on consumers is an ideological trick of market exchange under capitalism. As consumers, we only confront commodities and their prices. We feel free and make choices in this market. And this is a really important thing. Like for example, American consumption patterns, right? You don't have the option in a lot of places. I don't have it here of not driving a car to get around. So you are going to have a higher, carbon footprint. But again, these are decisions that are made by the rich and the powerful in the society, not by individuals, which is why a lot of this kind of eco-pessimistic stuff that we're getting from the degrowthers, I find to be wrong, because like we do need public transit. We do need to reduce our emissions and all these things. But to be able to confront that, we have to be looking at the root causes of why certain societies consume so much and produce so many emissions. And to be serious about that and to change that, we have to look at the root causes here, and it's the people who are in control of the system, not the everyday people who are just trying their very best to get by and get along. So we'll have Matt Huber on the program in a couple of weeks to talk more about this. We always love having Matt Huber on, but I don't know. I think it's an important point to make because I'm pretty damn tired of some of these more pessimistic people out there who are sort of looking at working people in a country like America, for example, where the people are dying younger than they ever have, where some like 20% of people struggle to put food on the table, saying that they are the cause instead of the Jeff Bezoses, instead of Exxon, instead of BP. If we're not serious about directing our anger at the real people who caused this problem, we're not doing our jobs as the left.
Absolutely. All right, folks. Want to welcome to the show now one of my favorite comedians, a stand-up comedian. Also, he does what?
Oh, sorry. My bad. I didn't know I was going to be on right now. Just caught me picking.
I'm sorry to embarrass you, Chris. But Chris James at the CJS on Twitter. You can check him out at Not Even a Show on YouTube and Not Even a Show on Twitch. Chris, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I was listening to the opening there, and I hope you guys don't ask me about stuff like that. I don't really have. If you start talking about like smart stuff, I will be exposed quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to just say, like, navigate the sort of different tensions between degrowth and socialist development, if you will.
Well, yeah, and degrowth, of course, it's going to be a little bit better than C growth and not quite as good as E growth.
There you go. Now, I want to introduce Chris. Chris, like I said, stand-up comedian. He also does one of my favorite programs on YouTube.
It's so good.
That I've been following, I mean, seems like half a decade now. Not even a show, where he pranks, I mean, all sorts of guys. I mean, in the early years, it was Kurt Schilling, the former Red Sox pitcher, and
That
a
was
whole
the
bunch
first
of other
guy. Yeah,
guys.
that was how I started the channel, was pranking Kurt Schilling. He had a Breitbart show at the time, but yeah, he fucking failed at that as well.
Yeah, I don't know if that cost Breitbart as much money as his video game studio cost the state of, was it New Hampshire?
Yeah, it might have been. It was Rhode Island. It was
Rhode
Rhode
Island.
Island, I believe, where he used taxpayer money to fund his video game company that imploded and cost the state like tens of millions of dollars.
That's insane. I didn't know
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, he's a real proper fucking loser.
Yeah, it's wild because, a heroic World Series performer and big time loser, like sad.
Yeah.
For folks who haven't seen Not Even a Show, you should go over and subscribe to it. But I'm constantly amazed by your ability to sort of weave into the sort of weekly headlines with. So just to start off, you had a representative state legislator, Monty Fritz. You prank these guys, and often it's by inviting them onto shows that don't actually exist. One of my favorites was the Calm Corner, where it's supposed to be a very relaxed vibe, like it's nap time, and you invite politicians on to sort of be real gentle.
Yeah, sort of like, I like the idea of, when you're insulting people, but you're doing it like, well, the thing is, guys, and you're doing it in a real sort of sweet. And the thing I would always say, because I would always say something and they would want to like, hey, can I go back and talk about what you just mentioned, like defend myself? And I would always say, on the canal, we're always just moving forward.
We're just
it's always moving forward. We don't move backwards. So unfortunately, we can't.
Now my new favorite is the Meanest interview. And you invited Monty Fritz. Monty Fritz was one of these Tennessee guys who voted to expel the lawmakers for standing with gun control supporters. Ultimately, those folks were reinstated with more publicity.
Is it what is that a fire truck?
There's New York
for
fire.
Damn.
Yeah, because I'm on fire. But yeah, here's Monty Fritz. You invited him onto the Meanest show.
We caught up with another one of the Tennessee state reps.
Oh, and I'll just say,
sorry.
we'll
I use voice AI for my host. So I have Mike Huckabee or Tucker Carlson, and that's all voice AI that I'm using to recreate their voice. And it is fucking terrifying how good it is.
I do want to spend a good amount of that, because this season has been like I guess you did a little bit of like deep fakery stuff before, but this has been a real voice AI season. Here is like you said, Tucker introducing this clip.
We caught up with another one of the Tennessee state reps who voted to expel two Democratic colleagues and hit him with one of the cruelest concepts for an interview that we've ever had. This is also a mistake. I just want to, if you could, sorry, you don't even have to feel.
It's wrong. Like, I have the wrong. That's the one time I made a mistake, and I have the wrong description up there. So I do appreciate you highlighting the largest mistake that I made in the entire season.
I actually noticed that and made a note to not record that, and then forgot it. But yeah, so that should say this is a Monty Fritz.
Yeah, Stain deserves every bit of it.
Just full disclosure. There's a chance that we might have to bump you on the interview, where there's a potential for a pretty big name guest, conservative comedian Daryl Kraft, and so there's a chance we'll have to cut it in the middle, and I apologize if that's the case, but let's get started anyways. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I'm your host, of course, Trey Dunup. We are joined today by for now. We're joined by Monty Fritz. He is a representative, a Texas state representative, or Tennessee state representative, and one of the Republicans who recently voted to expel 2 Democrats from the Tennessee State House. Both those guys are back, though, right?
They are, and just to about that.
Hang on one second. Hang on. Do we got him? No. Did he email back though? Keep that line of communication open. If we can get him in, we'll get him in. All right. What was the shit? What was the shit you were saying?
Just to be correct, I voted to expel all 3 of those.
Oh,
Democrats.
you voted to expel all of them.
The white one too.
Congratulations.
I voted to expel all 3,
and none of them are expelled. None of them are expelled, just to be clear. So your votes amounted to basically next to nothing at that.
That is not correct. I would disagree completely with that. 2 of the members were expelled.
Oh, hang on one second.
We'll let that one stop that one there. But that is, I love just the amount of disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
Calling it Texas initially.
Yeah, I do like to just show a basic lack of caring about anything to do with their name or what it is that they do. Yeah, that one is really mean, and obviously those guys are horrible people, but it can be a little bit difficult in the moment when you're just being so incredibly cruel to somebody, like just like, hey, I don't care about you at all. But yeah, those ones are fun to do as well, because I don't think those people get talked to like that very often. I don't think they're used to it, so it's nice to do that.
But it's I mean, I know we have some more closer stuff to get to, but man, like one thing, like just somebody else who does like a show, like I always get so nervous about trying to get guests and get them to schedule on the show. Is like it's amazing how much free time some of these guys seem to have. Like, because like once you change the names of the show, like they wouldn't be able to find like your footprint.
I mean, they kind of would, to be honest. Like if they had I do a little bit to protect it, but I'm emailing them, to be clear, from like, I have a fake site and everything. So I have a fake site that looks like it's a network and it's paywalled. So the idea is you click on it and you have to have a membership to see the content, but it has screenshots from other guests, like big guests we've had, like Roger Stone or Paul Manafort and stuff. So it looks kind of real. And I have like a real email signature, and it's producer@liberty, whatever it is, like my fake thing. But if you looked it up and did a little bit of research, you'd be able to figure it out, but they don't. And it was really fucking, like, it was bizarre to me, because I'm like, I booked that interview through his legislative aid, like through like the government email. I'm like emailing with somebody on a government email, and they're scheduling it officially through like on his official schedule. And I always thought, like, I don't know, maybe that you should have someone working for you who's like, will at least like Google it once or something, and like look into it a bit.
I didn't clip this one, but there's one you had where you started off with like a roast.
Yeah, that was Randy Fine. That was Randy Fine, who's the most horrible. You want to talk about these people who are like championing these anti-trans legislation? Like that guy in Florida he's at the forefront of all of that. You look that guy up, he is as big of a fucking scumbag as there is, Randy Fine. So yeah, I did a whole roast where it was like, the idea was before the interview we do a little roast just to prove that comedy's not dead and we can deal with that kind of thing. And his legislative aide called me back afterwards to be like, what happened? And I was like, I don't know. He hung up. I have no idea. And he's like, well, what was the line of questioning? And I was like, we didn't even get to the questions. It was just the roast portion of the interview. And she's like, well, that was the issue. I didn't know there was going to be a roast portion. But then she fully lost it on me because I brought up some story of another one of their aides who works for Randy Fine, whose son was potentially arrested as a peeping Tom. And when I brought that up, she fucking lost. Fuck you, you fucking, like, she started just fucking screaming at me on the phone, like in her office, like in whatever Capitol building she works in or whatever.
What I really like about this is this movie come out, How to Blow Up a Pipeline.
I saw it. Fantastic, by the way. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it. We have the author on Majority Report, and like I am genuinely sympathetic to the ideation going on here. I would recommend Nelson Mandela on terrorism on chapter 45 of Long Walk to Freedom for some downsides that could happen from that, but nonetheless, what you do is, I think, kind of like the one true, like, undeniable thing that book, and I guess probably the movie elaborate, is there's a resources limit that these people have, and I think you act in a similar way because you are using their time up, and that is a huge, like, I think that's genuinely useful and doing something materially important.
I mean, I appreciate it. It's very nice to say. I think it's probably, like, to a lesser degree of blowing a pipeline off and disturbing the flow of oil, but I do appreciate it. I don't really, of course, I know people have mentioned it. I remember when, like Tim Heidecker shared a clip. That was the thing that he keyed in on, was like wasting Roger Stone's time, and I suppose that is something that happens. I never really I like to talk to people in a way that they're not used to being talked to, I guess, like bring stuff to their face. I also have like access to every single person's cell phone number in the entire world. So I won't tell you how, obviously, but I like the idea of calling, like, a big CEO of a company or something like that, that's like fucking people over, like a CEO of like these grocery chains. I don't often put those on the channel, but just fucking, they're like, what the fuck? Like, I'm not supposed to have to deal with this. Some fucking lowly employee who I pay fucking $10 an hour is supposed to be dealing with this. So yeah, I just like kind of talking to them and bringing them a little bit of like reality of how this is a lot of people, how they think of you, just so you know.
Yeah, and in some of their worst weeks of their life, like the Cuomo stuff, Andrew Cuomo, or was it Chris? I can never.
It was Chris Cuomo. Chris Cuomo, right. When he got fired, I called him on his cell phone, and for some reason, Chris Cuomo always answers his cell phone, no matter what. Doesn't matter. He's like one of the only guys. It's like, it doesn't matter what number it is, what time of day, he will fucking answer. And I remember he was like, he was like, said something in the news where he was like, I was going to kill everybody and kill myself when this was happening. And I was like, holy shit, like, he's definitely talking about me. Like, I was one of the guys he wanted to kill for sure.
And Bethany Mandel, the week that she was having all the stuff about she couldn't define wokeness on Brie George's show.
And then I called her and she was with her family on the plane. She had all of her kids with her. You could like hear them in the background. I almost didn't put that one out, to be honest.
She deserved it, but like then she blew up about it on Twitter too. So another one, two guys. We won't play the Wabama one, but I'm from North Dakota. There's been a bunch of school lunch stuff going on in the Upper Midwest. Minnesota passing theirs, North Dakota, I think, coming around. It might still be working through the legislature, but initially not passing it. But this is Drazkowski. I can't remember what his first name is. I think
Steve.
it's like,
I think it's Steve.
Steve.
I think
okay.
So.
I was gonna say dickhead, but
I talk to so many of these people that they fucking blend together sometimes. Honestly, they really do.
I mean, I love, like, this one is, I mean, this is another one of your fake shows called Not. I won't explain the joke, I guess, before we get to it.
I just want to say that I appreciate your courage in standing up to that. I know it can't be the easiest thing to deal with. I think it shows a lot of integrity to not bend at the knee and give in when you have the whole majority of people coming down on you. I want to say that I admire you a lot personally, and I appreciate what it is that you're doing for the country and for freedom and for America, and I think that you're a good man.
Thank you, Jerry.
Not! Yeah, you're a scumbag. You're a loser. Come on, man. Who would ever want to have you on a real interview? Who would ever say those things about you? Are you joking me? You literally were voting against kids having school lunches, and the reason you gave was because you said you've never seen someone hungry before. Oh, yeah. You came off sounding like I remember. Yeah, that was the guy who said. Yeah, that was Mike Fuckabee, the other host. That was the guy who said he's never seen a hungry person in Minnesota before. I mean, the one that I liked, the reason I like that is because the name of the thing is not, so like everybody knows what's coming when you're watching it, you know. So you're just waiting for it to come. He's the only one. We all know what's coming, but he doesn't, you know, and it's just so fun.
And then that with the combination like that, it's like right in their face and foreshadow, but also they're genuinely gearing up to take a compliment, which is not something like I'm comfortable doing. Like it's a weird thing, and then to in the middle of him saying thank you to revoke it is it's delicious.
It's true. It's funny that you say that because I definitely do think about that. That's a really hard thing to do. I'm sitting there saying really nice things, even if it's fake, to those types of people who are like such horrible. Like what's the guy's name with the mustache? Mike, the guy the child marriage guy. Yeah, Mike Moon, state senator Mike Moon, who, you know, he was the one who came out in support of child marriage. He's a big anti-trans person as well. And, you know, I had him on, and that's why I don't have a mustache right now fully, is because I did a bit where I was like, I'm a mustache guy. I love your mustache. And like, man, it's part of my identity and everything. And like just chumming around with them. And then the whole joke was when I discovered who I was talking to and that he was a mustache guy, I physically shaved my mustache off on the stream in front of him. And like, so I knew that I was like, it's worth it. People enjoyed the prank, but it is very hard to be like sitting there having a conversation with this fucking monster and like chumming around with him or whatever. Yeah,
that's one aspect I imagine probably it takes some coping, is to stare into the abyss of these freaks all the time and like actually like poke it and see the ripples.
Yeah, I mean, I talked today, not to spoil anything, but I don't know if you saw the video of that Nazi who was Chris Paulhaus is his name, and he's like an actual real Nazi who was like leading that charge of those people at those horrible mass guys with the swastika flag, everything like that. Yeah, so I talked to that guy, and those ones are really, they do make it feel really disgusting afterwards to even speak to us. I don't think he's the crying Nazi. I think he has a big face tattoo.
This was like the one in Ohio, right?
The one in Columbus that just happened. Yeah, that where he was leading them and they were doing Sieg Heil. Like it was just, I mean, you see that type of stuff. You wonder, how are they walking around? Why are they walking around? Why are people, I won't say what, you know, because you guys have a TOS or whatever, but I mean, why are those guys walking around, you know? But yeah, after having a conversation with somebody like that, it does make you feel really bad. And
you got to shower.
Kind of want to watch a nice movie or something like that, and just like forget about all of it for sure.
Yeah. But I want to transition now to you know, we've taken a skeptical eye towards AI as a sort of investor marketing buzzword that's been thrown around a lot. Is a sort of post crypto. I think like there's a lot of people trying to get money into this, but I would grant that it is unlike crypto. There's actual like uses for this technology that are fairly interesting. Your use of AI voice technology this season is one of those, and we've already seen a little bit with the Tucker thing. But I want to play this. Gorka is my favorite of yours.
He's the best.
And
yeah, he's a character, man. He really is obviously like he's like a villain. I mean, I've said before many times he'll DM me all these like incredibly threatening things, and he'll like block you, then he'll like unblock you to send you another message, then he'll block you again. Like he's really like a little child when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah, and you have a Gorka bot, and what I find so interesting is this guy you sent Gorka to, and I do like how that's like, you used to have a bunch of like listeners of your show calling into these shows doing their own pranks, and I imagine like the generative AI has allowed you to do a lot more without people immediately knowing your own voice. But this guy's so keyed into the free speech warrior thing that he basically, they don't understand that like the more show they devote to your prank is them losing. Like they should just move on and not react. And
yeah,
then
that's the way to do it. The shows that
Yeah.
don't react, if we call them and prank them and they give no reaction, it's like I stop calling them because there's no point. It doesn't give us any material. The material is the reaction most of the time. So yeah, that's what they should be. This guy's, I think you're talking about Chris Salcedo out of Texas, probably.
Yes.
He has a big show. So his show is like very, very popular. It's not a small show. He's on like one of the bigger networks and he's on Newsmax and stuff. So this guy he has a proper following. But yeah, he has totally lost the plot on things, as you can see, as he's arguing with an AI for a long time.
The voice of Texas and TNT.
Good morning, Mr. Salcedo. I appreciate you taking my call.
Right back at you, sir.
I'm curious, Mr. Salcedo, how is it that you think you can adequately host a show with that tiny little head you have?
Well, let's talk about the issues rather than personal insults, shall we? What's on your mind?
My head is like a regular head that ate a Mario mushroom.
So
I got the balloon dome, baby. Suck me sideways. That head be bobbing heavy, baby.
Okay. All right. Well, any issues in that rattling around that noggin of yours you want to talk about specifically that I've talked about? It's all right, Derek. Don't take him down, Russell. I'm
take
hoping
him down,
he will
Russell.
get to a
telling the producer. The producer is aware. Like the producer knows that this is a because he's not a fucking idiot. So he's just like telling him, like, "Hey, man, we probably want to hang up on this. This is not
Move
serious."
on.
He's like, "Hey, no, this is a free speech thing."
Yeah, the host's ego overrules the producer to give you basically 2 minutes of content.
Yeah. Has to notice about Derek. He doesn't want to talk about anything his side is doing. He doesn't want to. He can't defend Joe Biden. He can't defend socialists and Marxism, but he can attack me. Go ahead, Derek. Let's see if we can get back to an issue. Go ahead.
So now the producer, has him down because he doesn't. He wants to end it.
Derek, are you there? Nope.
Hey, this guy's a tool.
I understand that. I want
my hair dyed.
All right. So go ahead, Derek. So let's talk about an issue that you and I can discuss about the merits of which and.
Dude, he can't.
Russell, I know. I never want to be accused.
Yeah, maxing out the mic because he's so
fully clipping the mic because he's yelling so hard into it. Like, Chris, you fucking idiot.
Such a big fool you are.
I know. I never want to be accused of not giving the other side ample opportunity to be heard. This is what they do to us. They silence us, and I will not be that. That's just not me. I'm a conservative. I have a
superior intellect and a superior ideology
to their left-wing ideology. So I do not want to silence anyone. So Derek, go ahead.
I was hoping to discuss something that I think is more important than ever in these times, and that is the problem where people are ruining their shirts because when they put them on, their head stretches out the neck hole.
Well, you know what? I think that might be in some quarters. It might be something that consumes somebody's time. What about rising interest rates?
This is so incredible. When he starts going, he's like, "What about rising interest rates?" He starts talking about all this, like to prove his intelligence. Like I'm going to prove how much smarter I am than this thing that every single other person listening can tell is an AI at this point.
And like, even if you didn't think it was an AI, you would think it was some sort of like, I mean, we had like E-Bomb's World used to have like voice, what do they call it? Those sort of like chat bots where you could do like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like,
they would be like you'd have to use like a thing. So you couldn't make them say whatever you want, but you could have them say like phrases that they've said before or whatever using the audio. But yeah, I mean, the AI is really like there's obviously good use for it. I think even as someone who utilizes it, and I don't know, I think it's probably very bad. Like that, I would say that it is incredibly dangerous and that the negative stuff that it's capable of far outweighs the positives. I think I would be willing to give up my ability to, make an AI Tucker Carlson if it meant that people weren't getting like scammed out of serious amounts of money. Because I think scamming is going to be like a big thing that it's going to be used for, obviously. And it's not corporations that are going to get scammed by it, probably.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right.
So like, I mean, like, I know there's a broad question, but like, I'm just not familiar with it at all. Like, the right-wing YouTube world is very strange, isn't it? Like they're just like these like 50-year-old dudes like losing their minds and
has it migrated to Rumble, Chris?
Rumble. There's a lot of them are on Rumble, so a lot of them won't use YouTube anymore because of free. But a lot of them are on multiple things. I'll be honest with you. Now, I know you guys are also on it, but Twitch is actually fucking completely unregulated when it comes to that shit. Like shit that'll not be allowed on any of the other platforms will still be on Twitch doing their thing. But yeah, D Live. There's all kinds of them. But yeah, there is definitely this. Oh yeah, Parlor. There's this weird community. There's all these Foxhole is this like community thing where they do all of these like incestuous kind of shows. They're all guests on each other's shows, and they're just a community. And it is just kind of cosplaying as a host. Like there's no real, they're not making any serious money off of it. They're not like, getting any serious message out there. They're just playing talk show host, basically. I have a snake guy I call. There's a guy we call, and he has the Gadsden flag or whatever behind him, and we just call him and say there's a snake right behind you, and like that's always the prank. And it drove him completely crazy. I actually ended up tricking him into coming on a show. I emailed him and got him on a show where my name was Bo a Constrictor, and I was like, and it was really sad because he was so excited about it, like just so incredibly excited about it. But yeah, guys like that they're just doing it for themselves, it's
I mean, like obviously they do weird, awful stuff. I'm not trying to downplay it, but like half of it, like I've watched some of Gorka's stuff, and it's like half of it is just like him getting worked up about Disney. And like,
yeah, and to be clear, to be clear, Gorka does like guys like Gorka. That's a show that's like a Salem show, so it is on terrestrial radio. It is like anything that's on Salem is Dennis Prager is on Salem as well. Those things are like across the country. They are being played on like he has a big listenership just from name alone. But yeah, they're really bad at it as well. Like they just have a name. So the one who is the worst at it, the absolute worst host I have ever seen host anything in my entire life, even including all the tiny little ones, is fucking Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani is name alone. He does not know how to broadcast. He will constantly his phone will start ringing in the middle of the show. He has the worst technical issues ever. He's I think probably drunk a lot of the time that he's hosting it. And he just has no fucking idea how to host a show. And he's been doing it for so long and never figured it out.
And you've probably got the you married your cousin prank off on him.
Yeah.
What, like 40 times?
Oh, at least 100, I would say. I mean, it's like as you can probably tell, that sort of is the go-to for the channel is we will key in on one single thing and we will never let it go. So like JJ McCartney was an old the shirt. You can watch JJ McCartney's Supercuts. It's 8 full hours, and every time I just invented a prank, which was to say he had a nice shirt. There, Lo is talking about it in the chat. Yeah. So I just decided, hey, can I invent the trigger? Can I like just create the trigger out of nothing, a meaningless thing? And that's what we'll sort of do is like just create this trigger ourselves. And then we will keep doing it until that thing is unbearable. So then as soon as he hears the word shirt now, like, I mean, he must be like watching TV and is like, oh, 2 shirts and he's like, what the fuck? He's like losing it at the TV. And it's actually, believe it or not, very easy to do with these guys.
Yeah, you create a symbol that has actual no bearing in reality, and then
nothing whatsoever, and then it does. Yeah, JJ McCartney, for someone asking in the chat, JJ McCartney has canceled. His show is done now. He no longer does it. Every now and then I'll check in on his Facebook, and he posts like some sort of update, hey, doing well, blah blah blah, and then just a bunch of people just comment like nice shirt, and then he just fucking leaves again.
Yeah, and it's like it's the sort of thing where occasionally you veer into maybe this guy like is this kind of mean, and then you get to see the actual JJ and he expresses his opinions like, oh no, this guy that he's bullied off of producing filth is definitely a good thing.
I mean, it is mean and it's bullying, there's no doubt about it. Like there's no I was saying to my girlfriend yesterday that I think my channel is kind of, it's an opportunity to watch somebody get bullied and not feel bad about it. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's like people who fully deserve to be bullied. But I mean, it is. I mean, we're we're bullying this guy. Yeah, he's the most hateful person, you know, that you can imagine, and he's trying desperately to, like, you know, get this message out that, hey, you should hate and make life more difficult for marginalized people. So he does deserve it. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're being very cruel, definitely.
To absolutely cruelest people. One of the things with AI that I wanted to bring up is, I'll play this clip of you have Mike Huckabee or Mike Fuckabee as an AI voice, and like that the Tucker one and the Huckabee one, and even Gorka, like you hear them enough, and one, like the inflections are like there's like personality behind those, and it gets to the point where I want you to talk about Huck Watch a little bit too, but it gets to the point where it sort of writes over what I expect of their real personalities. So like you have Mike Huckabee being Mike Fuckabee, and then I watch you watching Huckabee's show, and I expect the real Huckabee to sort of be a little bit like Mike Fuckabee or Tucker Carlson like that. It's weird. Like my brain can't entirely separate that. It like creates auto expectations of it.
Yeah, I wonder about it too. Like, I guess there's no laws for it yet, because I just wonder if at some point it will be a law that I am explicitly breaking in doing this, because I do sort of mention that it's AI and stuff, but Brad Stein is God's comic. Some people might have seen, they were watching him on Office Hours, and he gave a DMCA complaint against him and Office Hours for playing his clips. We play them all the time. I make Brad Stein AI. He's a really religious guy, so I'll make him say stuff like, man, Jesus Christ, man, the fucking God man himself, the big fucking big hog ass motherfucker. I love this dude. I'll suck him and fuck him, you know, like just like the craziest like stuff ever. And I would imagine if he heard that, it's so blasphemous that if he heard it, he would be like, you know, aggressively trying to bring some sort of legal case against me. And I think it would be kind of fun to be like one of the first. Like if Gorka sued me for using his AI or whatever, and I get to go to court with them or whatever, that would be so fun.
Gorka versus Not Even a Show Incorporated.
I would show up. I would genuinely I would get the money together to go to court. Like I would never pay if I lost, just to be clear. I would go off the grid and never pay, but I would show up to court and I would argue my case against Gorka.
I want to play this. You had Mike Fuckabee call into a show here, and I just love this use of this technology.
Let's take a phone call. Caller, good morning. You are on The Daily Show. What's up?
Hey, I appreciate you taking my call. Should I just get right to my point?
Please.
I think many people in this country are dealing with the fact that they used to be a big, famous politician, but now they are basically rancid milk poured into a big suit, and nobody respects them anymore. And they have issues with crapping their pants, and the smell is so bad that even after they wash their underoos 3 times, people still avoid sitting next to them at a restaurant due to the pooty smell.
Now I wanna be your dog. Well, thank you for that. That was very informative.
Okay, full disclosure, I used to have a job in government, and I have a family member that is currently in government. I'm curious if you have any advice to give someone if their giant son once tortured and killed a dog, and then the person has to walk around and even be on TV sometimes with everyone knowing how their son is a dog killer.
That's true, by the way, for anyone who doesn't know. I don't know if you know that.
That I can't.
Yeah,
that's a true fact about Huckabee, is that his one of his giant sons tortured and killed a dog, and we do like to bring that up as well.
Yeah, no, you get really good mileage out of some of the opposition research that a lot of these guys really don't have to deal with if they're running for office. But yeah, I'm a big fan of over at Not Even a Show Twitch. You guys do the Huck Watch. Just to tell folks what that is.
Well, that was originally on the Go Off Kings, so that's something I do with Rob Wisman, who was on the Go Off Kings before. And it's basically we watch. Huckabee has a late night show. That he does like a proper late night, like he does like a monologue. He has like a segment where he reads the news, like a weekend update, and then he has comedians on and different people like that. So we'll watch clips from that. Yeah, not even a show on Twitch is my Twitch. And yeah, we'll watch clips of that as well as Brad Stein and different people we've met from the Huckabee Show, mostly Christian comedians, as you can imagine. It's very, very Christian. It's on a Christian network of some kind. But yeah, we basically watch and laugh at that stuff, at how, you know, incredibly unfunny it is. And we've met a lot of really sort of fun characters through that.
There was a comedian you had on. He wasn't a comedian. He was like the representative of the conservative comedy.
No, he was a comedian. I can understand why you sort of thought he wasn't, due to the fact he wasn't getting any laughs and the stuff he was saying wasn't funny. But no, he was technically a comedian and also the thing you're talking about. But yeah, I guess he misspoke. Like what he meant to say, David, was I like children. What was it? Like, it was something I like.
He says I like hurt kids.
Yeah. So he was saying I like kids who are hurting. Like, I tend to like kids who are hurting.
I like hurting kids.
What he actually said though was I like hurting kids. And then he continued on, and like everything he said after that sounded like it was just worse and worse because he had misspoke in that moment. I forget what that guy's name is, really dark figure, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. We use the AI a lot over there, the Brad Stein and the Mike Huckabee AI. And it's the one opportunity that you have to see Rob nowadays, because Rob is one of the funniest dudes ever, one of the funniest guys on Twitter. If you guys, he did Uber driver sucked me off, was a famous tweet of his. But yeah, he stopped going on Twitter or anything like that. So it's your only opportunity to see old Rob.
Yeah, no, it's been good to see Rob back and Huck Watch. I know Go Off Kings had to make room for like weird guys jerking off on TikTok, but
that's right,
which is important. But no, I mean, like Mike Huckabee is like, I love the Huck Watch stuff so much because like, so I'm from Austin, but I went to high school in South Carolina, and I waited tables on Mike Huckabee because I worked at this big ass seafood buffet in South Carolina, and they were crazy Christian conservatives. So he would come and do these huge fundraisers, and like, you know, I wish I had some prank or something I did to him. I just, you know, sucked it up and talked to him.
Yeah,
weird ass motherfucker.
Oh, I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
He's not a short guy, but he's one of those guys who like he can't stand up straight. So
yeah,
he hunches and he like looks way smaller than he.
Terrible posture. Yeah, he always looks bad, definitely. And he does. You see on his show, because he's doing just sort of his witty banter with his like Keith and like Trey, his band leader, and you can just tell that's him interacting. You know, that's him off the cuff, and you're like, this is really fucking weird and off-putting, and like I would just hate being around this guy for sure.
See, but like, yeah, but this is like where like again, like Mike Huckabee's an awful guy, but like this is where I can't help but like respect the dude, because this guy has so much power and influence that he's basically like, we're going to do like the worst late night show you've ever seen in your life. Yeah. And we're going to keep on doing it because
for a long time. Yeah. They have been doing it for so many years, and they do it in like this big, beautiful studio. It's called Mike and Jesse from YKS, friends of mine. Jesse also from Go Off Kings. They went to a taping before, because when we used to do Huck Watch, they live very close to where they do the taping, so they went in the audience. There's video of them in the audience that we picked out. But it's like this beautiful, I forgot what it's called, like I want to say maybe even like the Grand Ole Opry, like some shit like that. Like it's like some like beautiful old famous, I think it used to be, what's the musician that they used to always reference on Family Guy? You know, they like, ladies and gentlemen, Conway Twitty.
Yeah, Conway Twitty.
Yeah. It was Twitty City is what it actually is. Lord, it's like this whole thing based around Conrad Twitty, and I think it's in the same place as that, but it's like just this wonder. You see it, it's just fucking beautiful. You're like, how are they making this shit in this like wonderful studio with all of this fucking equipment? It clearly costs a lot of money to make, and it's just nothing. It is literally nothing. Like, yeah.
Who do you think writes it? Because like that's the thing to me. It's like, oh, this is inspiring because like I can put on a show if these guys are trotting out with that.
Well, it's just church money, though. Honestly, do you know what I mean? It's just like the church just has so much money, so they're not really concerned with the quality of it. He has a name, and so I guess people tune into it based on the fact that it is Huckabee. But yeah, I don't. No, the writing to me, from what I can tell, it just seems like they're not writing original jokes. They're going on like funny news stories or whatever, and then they're just picking them out. Occasionally, they're just kind of saying like, "Well, look at this, hey, what do you think of this?" And it's like you're supposed to make a joke about it. You can't just show a video that's like a viral video. But then the other ones are just like your most basic sort of uncle street joke type things. Like he does a lot of puns. And then he tries to like act like he's like, didn't she's like, oh, that one was really bad, and he like tries to be like self-aware, but it's like that only works when you have funny jokes as well.
Yeah,
it can't just all be bad.
I'm sorry, it's just like Southern Baptist. It's just like not a good religion to do stand-up comedy. Like like Baptists can be funny interpersonally, but it does not create good stand-up roast.
People should check out. You did a Huck Watch last night. That you had two guys on there that I think maybe had the most combined the unfunniest, especially pound for pound.
Pound for pound, the worst set of comedy I've ever seen in my life. Yeah, they got 0 laughs. They were doing warm up for the show, and they were like this dual, like religious act. Like one was a youth pastor, one was a senior pastor, and they were doing like the fake sort of like, "Well, I'll be damned. What did you just say?" Like I don't believe what I just heard. Like no, and it is fucking painful because at least normally people are laughing at it, and they're just not. They're not hitting, even with this audience. They're not hitting.
It's so bad because it's like like you said, nobody in like a charitable audience. Because like I went to church every Sunday growing up. The preacher can say any dumb shit and people will laugh at it. It's like the easiest like and to be a comedian in that context, people are gonna be.
That's what I'm saying.
And they're religious, too. Like these people are like Pat. They're like, we're in your community.
Exactly.
We're talking about the stuff that you are interested in, and yet we're somehow so disconnected, even from the only people on earth that should be connected to our comedy. Yeah, it was catastrophically and impressively bad, I would say.
Because it made me think of like, oh, they had to rehearse this, and they thought like, oh, this hits actually.
Yeah, they rehearsed it. That's the thing too. They like it's not like stand-up comedy. I do. You mentioned all the time. I used to do stand-up comedy as my job for a living, and you can kind of like you go over it a little bit, but you're not like rehearsing your material. You're like thinking of it and then going on stage and saying it. But these guys had a whole like cut me. Okay, you got to cut me off at this moment. When I say this, you got to jump in. So they put like time and effort. And they laid a complete egg. Like you think I'm exaggerating? They actually got 0 laughs in their entire 6-minute set. 0.
Yeah, no, it's like the difference between like a perfect game and like a shutout.
Yeah.
Like they got a perfect game.
Perfect game. Yeah, there was like honestly, you could have a baby sleeping in there, and it would have been totally fine. No chance the baby's getting woken up.
Chris James at the CJS on Twitter. Plug your stuff, Chris.
Yeah, go to Twitch and subscribe to some, or maybe you could put it in there. I don't know. But yeah, YouTube is Not Even a Show. Everything is Not Even a Show. Patreon.com/Not Even a Show. I've got somebody said in the chat earlier, I have probably too much content. I've been doing this for a lot of years, so you can go back, watch some best ofs, the Supercut series, Supercuts, and try to get into it. But yeah, if you want to watch really fucking awful people getting fucked with, I've been doing it for about 6 years, and probably any person you can think of, I have pranked on there. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Roger Stone. Yeah, sorry, go on.
No. I mean, I was just saying, like, as another plug before, you go like the thing you did with Nigel Farage, the guy who led the Brexit party.
Yeah.
Where you said you came around on Brexit, and then he's
well,
like,
that wasn't that. To be clear, that was a British prankster doing my prank. But yes, so that's a prank. That's a prank. I
thought you did a really good British accent. Then,
I wish I could.
To take that away.
Oh, bruv. I wish I could, bruv. No, that was I did that prank originally on Dennis Prager, and but somebody else did it someone who was a fan and a prankster for the channel in the UK called Nigel Farage and said, yeah, I came around on your opinion and something changed in my life. And, oh, what was it? And it was, I got kicked in the head by a horse. That's the whole thing. That was a good one because it went on like the news, like Piers Morgan on like that, whatever that show is in the UK. And they made fun of Nigel Farage about it on like the main morning show in the UK. But yeah, that's actually on if you go to my YouTube channel right now, the most recent episode is the best of all time. So it has the 10 best clips of all time. So it's a good time. Go check those out for sure.
I couldn't recommend it more. Thanks so much, Chris. A good talking
and Guys Podcast. Sorry. Guys Podcast. I do with Brian, Brian, formerly from Street Fight Radio. Him and I do a podcast called Guys. We have had incredible guests on. Will Menaker. We just had on Libby today. Juniper from Twitter did an episode. Will Sennett. Zach Cherry's coming on. We talk about different types of guys. So like sex guys, chive guys, just people who are obsessed with a particular thing, and we do a deep dive into those, and people are loving that podcast. So check that podcast out as well.
Interesting. Chive guys. I gotta check that out.
Oh, fucking chive guys, man. They are the worst.
A lot of chive guys in Fargo. That's my recollection. Chris, thanks so much, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Appreciate it a lot.
All right. That was great.
No, people should really check out Not Even a Show. It's a really good time.
Yeah,
I mean, like the whole like that whole crew across the board. Go Off Kings is great. Your Kickstarter sucks. People know we're big fans.
Mm-hmm.
The porno guy turn on Your Kickstarter sucks has been really funny to me.
Yeah, just to be more explicit for folks, it's basically guys that are in the replies of like porn bots on Twitter, especially Mike from Your Kickstarter Sucks. Collects them. It's funny because like I'll raid Go Off Kings from Majority Report, and that show takes a certain kind of fluency, and it's funny because even like Jesse and Stefan, they like feel a little bit embarrassed to like they're talking about either food review guys or porno guys, and then we send like 200 people there, and they're like they feel like they need to get a little more serious. It's always very funny.
No, I mean, it's like people always ask us on this show. It's like, who do you guys listen? Like, what podcasts do you listen to? What YouTube shows do you listen to? It's like, I always feel bad. Like, and I don't really watch too much political YouTube or even many podcasts, but like the ones I always watch is like Not Even a Show, Your Kickstarter Sucks, and Go Off Kings.
Yep.
It's a good thing. If you're not into that stuff, it's definitely worth your time. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, I think it's so much fun.
But yeah, anyways, really, it's fun having Chris on the show. I will say too, like, not to be too much of a nerd, but it's like one of those things where it's like, usually I don't get too nervous for guests, but like Chris is somebody who like I listen to a lot for fun. So I'm like, I don't know how to talk to him. I'm like fine talking to other folks, like politics folks, and this like, oh, Chris is here. I have to be. So I don't know what I have to be.
I know, yeah. I know what you feel. Say like, who is just Noam Chomsky? Not that we've.
Well, Noam Chomsky's in trouble now.
Oh yeah, I mean, I haven't looked deeply into this, so I don't quote me on this, but I would just say Noam Chomsky will accept a motherfucking invitation. Yeah.
Well, I think we wanted to do a quick thing. Unless do we have another segment before we win the post game? And we have the shout out.
Yeah, just a quick shout out.
All right. Do you want to do that? Let's do this first one up top. This is a quick one, but this is an important one. People are always asking, what should we be doing right now? And, our answer is, I think, correct, but I can understand sometimes it feels vague. It's like we need to be looking to building up working class power and working class consciousness in this country, and that's going to have to come through labor. That's like a very basic statement. I think it's correct, but it's sort of like, okay, yeah, what do we do? There's a new organization that just launched that I think is worth your time and attention if you are not familiar with them, and that is the Rank and File Project, which just launched, I think, like last week. Rank and File Project is a new generation of activists joining to fight for a better world by organizing in the workplace. You can follow them on Twitter at Rank and File Proj, so like Rank and File PROJ. And what they're doing right now is trying to like, if you are somebody who is looking for ways to get involved, but also maybe be looking for, what you want to do with your career and your life, they're working right now to set people up with union workplaces across the country, so that you can get directly involved in the labor movement. Do you want to build a labor movement where working class people learn how to fight for and win a better world? We are recruiting applicants to join pilot cohorts in East Bay, San Francisco, and New York City, New Jersey in the fall of 2023. Participants will get education and support about how to organize, what union democracy and power look like, and how to pick a winning strategy. They'll work with experienced mentors and with each other as we all learn together how to build our working class movements for a different world. And there are ways to get involved and sign up. And if it's not something that you're looking to participate in right now, you can donate and support the project on their website, rankandfileproject.com. And look, I just like something 100% going to shout out on this program. It's somewhere you can go and look to either donate money to. I think that goes a long way. Or if you're somebody who's interested in maybe participating in looking for these rank and file jobs, getting this training and participating in the labor movement. I mean, particularly like if you're somebody who might be finishing up school, high school or college, you're looking for something, if you're maybe looking for a career pivot, I mean, this is something to certainly check out that I think, it's a lot better than getting a lot of the kind of corporate positions that are, that you can get sort of swallowed up into. Not that there's anything wrong with trying to find a way to earn a living, but Matt and I were saying before, it's like, I wish this was around when I was looking for what I want to do with my life.
Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, I'd be curious, like, and if people do, let us know, your experiences with it, but like, yeah, I can't imagine. I would have been so happy to at least have had a prayer in that kind of direction, back when I was trying to get any company to, pay me health and give me healthcare.
And we have one more, Matt. You want to take
Yeah, so a couple things on the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez front. I'll say
we are huge shills for in this program.
I guess. I mean, look. I mean, my general thing with AOC, which to me is sort of like answers all of the constant conversation, is like she's only going to be as good as the sort of like wins and movement around her, but as she stands, she's above replacement level. Like, she's not a revolutionary, and she's not maybe a heroic actor as an individual, but as far as like representatives go, she's far above replacement level. And there's a couple things here. One was a scene by Jordan Ull of on Twitter. This interesting comment that AOC apparently on Blue Sky, which I'm not on. I'll wait to see if that actually takes off before I solicit invitations. But Jordan posts this here. Right now, ask me anything, AOC says, and someone says Dianne Feinstein, and AOC's response is this: should retire. I think criticisms of that stance as, quote, anti-feminist are a farce. Her refusal to either retire or show up is causing great harm to the judiciary, precisely where reproductive rights are getting stripped. That failure means now in this precious window, Dems can only pass GOP-approved nominees. And as far as like messages AOC can send to the people who are giving her attention, it is that things like feminism can be cynically deployed by people who want to maintain the status quo. And yeah, I appreciate that for one.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I'm just in complete agreement. I mean, like, we have our criticisms of the strategy, some of the decisions that she's made, and yeah, some of the positions and activities, and even some of the votes we've agreed with, sort of being thought of or defended or articulated in a way that sort of can be a bit of a head scratcher. But and certainly the vote on blocking the rail strike, which is dark. But yeah, I mean, as a figure going out there and making some of these arguments, I think that's a net positive. And I think that the way you phrase it, Matt, and frame it is the right way to think about it. It's just like, absent of a real working class movement, we're going to be sort of waiting around forever to hope that certain kinds of politicians are going to participate and do politics in the way that we would like them to do. So if AOC is going to go out there and talk to the audience of people who genuinely support her and look to her to guidance and say things like that, I think that's a net positive thing, and it's worth shouting out and saying is a good thing.
Yeah, and she's also upset. There's a certain kind of Dem Party loyalist who would get upset by
It
that.
drives them nuts, this kind of thing.
And those people, yeah, they as much you are wrong that we can give those people is good. And I think on that front, Unusual Whales at this tweet here, breaking AOC and Matt Gaetz have introduced a bill to ban Congress members from owning trading stocks. Continue here a little bit. AOC highlighted the need for ethical standards, stating when members of Congress have access to classified information, we all know why they shouldn't be allowed to trade stocks. But I just appreciate that. It's there's a certain type of AOC critic who jumps at every chance to criticize any squad member when they don't decide to meet the right on their own terms on some issue. But I'll say another problem is all the people that responded to that saying, "Oh, of course," the Democratic Party loyalists saying, like she's some sort of Putin agent now.
Yeah, of course.
And I just think good. I think when Ilhan, she did some with Gates too that I can't remember. I genuinely do appreciate that, and I think people can be too allergic to it.
No, I mean, totally. Or when she recently was criticizing the court and saying that we probably need to reframe the way that we think about the Supreme Court, or even just the general ability of the courts to basically rule over, society in the sense of them being able to rule over legislatures, and, questioning that if that's a power that we want to give to a bunch of, for the most part, unelected figures in government. That's a positive that's a positive development, and I think in general consciousness of American politics. And I think that what's frustrating for me, Matt, and I know this is a quick segment, so I won't get too detailed, but it's just this inner out mentality that a lot of times we have on the left, where it's is this person the representative of the radical socialist left? No. Once you come to that realization, does that mean that we're going to sort of act like these people's entire existence is sort of to harm and hamper and prevent the left from growing? I think that's erroneous. I think that that's incorrect. You can see here are the limits of this project, here are the limits of this politician, here are the limits of this figure, and still say oh, well, here's an intervention where they're doing something that's really positive, and that's a good thing, and I'm happy that that's happening versus not happening. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, you have to be thinking a little bit more dialectically about these things. Is it if you want to say AOC is not a socialist, she's a sock dem, or even just a liberal, right? Fine, we can have that conversation. Sure. But does it not sort of bode well for the development of building more working class politics in this country that you have somebody out there, for example, criticizing the sacred calf of the corporate neoliberal Democratic Party, saying that Dianne Feinstein should retire, or that we probably shouldn't build this cult around the courts. Those are positive things, and if anything, it's just being able to understand multiple things at once. It's yes, this is not what's going to deliver us into a working class future on its own, but yeah, it's definitely a net positive that we have very popular, very people who have massive platforms, and people who get a lot of engagement when they saying things the courts are bad, or members of Congress shouldn't be trading stocks, or that weaponizing feminism to say that Dianne Feinstein shouldn't retire is bad.
Yeah,
that's a positive thing. That's just I guess what I'm saying is that's just all you got to learn if you really want to build a more coherent and strong left in this country, is that you can have criticisms and also be able to see, oh, here's some positives.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically the attitude is when AOC does the a Assange thing, or these sorts of things.
Oh yeah, I didn't even mention that. That was huge,
right? And it's they might not have the full revolutionary understanding of these things, but you get closer to it, and then have the job is then going to be to say we get there through this, not through like a sort of like reform strategy, but like in order to elaborate that and to demonstrate that to people, like I do think like you need to follow, or at least this is like a fruitful way to sort of develop that consciousness.
Yeah. No, exactly. And that's I think the bigger point is that, like, like if you are a Marxist and think that, like, social conditions play a major role in developing the way that politics and history goes, it's probably a positive development for the working class movement that we have, yes, limited and oftentimes people who like fail at doing the things that we want them to do, figures in Congress, but Lord, like they're being developed in a way that they weren't being developed in the 90s and the 2000s. That bodes well for us, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, folks, we're going to jump over to the post game, patreon.com/Left Reckoning. It was a lot of fun having Chris on the program. Just a reminder, these next 2 months, we're going to be going balls to the wall. How about that? We got a lot of really fun guests, a lot of really great shows coming up, some big name guests, some really awesome topics, some people I'm really excited to interview and share their insight with all of y'all. If you can, if you're able to, please support the show at patreon.com/Left Reckoning. It really helps us continue to grow, continue to get those big name guests and, and make an impact. I've been really proud of the work we've been able to do over the past couple of years, but I'm feeling like it's time for Left Reckoning to graduate into a more permanent and larger share of like left media discourse. So if you've been watching the show and you support the work that we've been doing, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/Left Reckoning. And look, it's not just supporting the show. You get 2 to 1. You get these post games, call-in sections, and our bonus episodes where Matt and I have guests. We do reading series, and these reading series I think are some of the things I'm most proud of. We've read Lenin, we've read Rosa Luxemburg, we've done early Marx, mid Marx, really looking at a lot of these really critical texts in social theory and social history. So if you want to support that work and get access to all of those, please support us at patreon.com/Left Reckoning. And appreciate everyone so much. I'll be back this Thursday with a Griscom stream, and we'll see you all in the post game.
Yeah, and just Michael used to be better at this reminder, but the month turned over and people's cards information may be out of date. So look, we're at over 900 now. We'd like to get back up to 1,000, I think, by like the end of the summer. So if you would have been waiting for a time to support Left Reckoning, now would be a great time. Patreon.com/Left Reckoning. And for those of you who are patrons, we're gonna head over to the post game right now.